I generally reject the idea of cancel culture as a phrase, especially when it comes to celebrities. Sure, there are times when a public figure does or says something truly bad, and many of their now disappointed fans stop following them as ardently. I guess in modern parlance, this is what we call cancellation. It is uh, sorry, cannot speak. It is said that Louis C.K. was canceled. So was Mel Gibson and Daniel Tosh, Woody Allen, Kevin Spacey, J.K. Rowling, Ricky Gervais, Casey Affleck, Johnny Depp. But were they canceled? I mean, all of these people are still working, still getting hired to do high-profile jobs. Maybe Woody Allen less so, but also I think that's more of the factor that he's 89 years old. I believe in human growth, in forgiveness, in the optimistic hope that we can change as people because we want to be better people. I was lucky enough not to have Twitter or TikTok in my 20s when I had much more of a dirtbag sense of humor. But the people closest to me didn't abandon me when I said something objectionable. They educated me and I came around because I want to be a good person. We survive because of community. There are still audiences who don't care what Louis C.K. did and didn't do. There are turfy protectors of Rowling. Hollywood still makes money off of Johnny Depp and Casey Affleck and Mel Gibson, and so those boys have lifelong friends in that industry and they will always have jobs. So no, I don't think cancel culture is a thing. In 1982, on the set of Twilight Zone, the movie, a helicopter crash during a stunt sequence killed actor Vic Morrow, along with 6-year-old Renee Shenyi Chen and 7-year-old Micah Denley, kids who were paid under the table to avoid child labor laws to act in this movie. All of this was overseen at 2 in the morning when this shoot was done by hot young director John Landis. Landis was coming off of very popular movies Animal House, The Blues Brothers, Trading Places, and this week's horror comedy classic, An American Werewolf in London. A trial lasting half a decade ultimately acquitted Landis, but the proof is strong that his overt negligence and aggressive behavior caused those deaths, and he never worked in Hollywood again. Just kidding. Landis went on to make Into the Night, Spies Like Us, Clue, Three Amigos, Coming to America, Amazon Women on the Moon, Beverly Hills Cop 3, and many, many more excellent films, TV shows, and music videos. He even directed Michael Jackson's Thriller video. Oh, hey, MJ, another non-victim of cancel culture. Hi, Cecil.
Hi, Jeffrey.
Do you have a favorite screwball comedy?
Um, you mentioned Clue. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty screwball comedy. I think Soap Dish is one of the
Mm-hmm.
most underrated comedies, like film ever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do every once in a while like to go back and watch the original screwball comedies, like Bringing Up Baby. I haven't seen too many of those, kind of the original screwball comedies, but oh, the super dark one? It's not Bell Book Candle.
Oh,
Arsenic and Old Lace.
yes, yes, yes.
Honestly, Arsenic and Old Lace is fucking tight. That
Yes.
is a delightful fucking movie.
Yeah.
And it's you understand what screwball comedy means, where you're like, this makes no sense, but it's goddamn so much fun.
I definitely grew up on speaking of John Landis, like the Kentucky Fried Movie and Airplane,
Oh,
on
Airplane
into
is,
the
oh my God.
Naked Gun and all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, like pound for pound, Airplane probably is one of the most quotable movies
Oh my God.
like of all time.
Uh-huh.
I haven't
And
seen that in years.
no. And Soap Dish, which is the sleepaway camp of
Oh
screwball
my God.
comedies.
Yes, yes.
Um, but it's Soap Dish is near perfection in its
Yeah.
script writing, and it's so good, and that cast is incredible. Yeah, love Soap Dish so much. I haven't rewatched Clue in forever.
I
I
think
have
it
a
was like,
fondness for it, but I don't
yeah.
remember it as well as other people do.
I think it was like on TV or something when we were on tour, and I was eating my bed spaghetti,
Hmm.
my post-show dinner in bed, and I was like, oh fuck yes, this is on cable. Hell yes, let's watch Clue.
I was really taken by the fact I don't want to, we don't have to go too far down the Clue rabbit hole here, but I was really taken by the fact that one, the, one of the producers of Clue, John Landis, was an executive producer and developed the story, but he was not a
Okay,
credited screenwriter or director. But Deborah Hill, John Carpenter's partner on Halloween films, was a producer in this film. She originally
Oh,
bought the idea of doing
okay.
the board game as a movie. And then when John Landis came on, he invited Tom Stoppard and Stephen Sondheim both as consultants for the story, and he hired mystery writer P.D. James to come in and help develop the three ending concept, which was
Oh,
John
wow.
Landis's big contribution to this film, that they
Okay.
released this movie with three different endings.
And then it
Eh,
did terribly in the box office.
Yeah, people sort of hated this movie,
They were
and
like,
it,
this is dumb. We're not
yeah.
watching this. And it wasn't until it came out on VHS that I was like, okay, we're going to watch this 300 times,
Yeah.
mostly theater kids.
A movie that was not hated when it was released, in fact, was very successful, was An American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
It got pretty good reviews, and seem to love it quite a bit, and for good reason. This movie's really fun, and it's we talk about horror and comedy being two sides of the same coin, but they're also like two ends of a metronome or a pendulum.
Hmm.
And this movie shows off the pendulum nature of horror and comedy because it
Oh, for
swings
sure.
aggressively back and forth between the two in
Yeah.
a way that I find mostly pretty effective.
Absolutely. It has some really interesting choices
Uh-huh.
in its casting, in locations, and especially in music choice.
Well, we rolled bitchin' soundtrack, which is what
We
we got.
did. We
I
did. I
mean,
think we got like the old timer version of Bitchin' Soundtrack. We got like Grandpa Bitchin' Soundtrack.
yeah, we got the boomer bitchin' soundtrack.
Listen, all those songs are all great songs.
We talked about this last week, which is that, you could make a pretty good playlist where your only restriction is the song has to have moon in the
Oh,
title.
and we're like, hey, we got five of them right here.
Oh, three of them are variations of Blue Moon.
Yes, of the same song, but but like you're like, I know all these songs. I know
Uh,
all these songs.
well, we open with the misty mountains and moors of Yorkshire, England.
Oh, looks
Blue
so wet.
moon. Ba-do-do-do-do-do-do. Yeah, we see the sheep truck pull up kind of in the middle of nowhere and drop off our two American boys, David and Jack, who are
Yeah.
they're just doing your classic like post-college, we're gonna hike Europe.
3 months backpacking through Europe. They're like, we're gonna do Northern England first and then later Italy.
Yes.
Classic.
And David, who's our main character, and his sidekick Jack, Griffin Dunn, uh,
I think Griffin Dunn is so cute.
he
I'm not
is.
gonna lie. So cute. Like in a very 80s way, but still.
I think I've only ever seen him in that I can think of in one other movie, which is the Scorsese. Is it after? No, it's not called After Midnight. It's the one where he's like
After
After
Hours.
Hours. Yes,
Yes.
which that one is a really that again another like really dark comedy.
Yeah.
But he's
Chasing
so
that
kind of
$20 bill around Soho
yeah
for
he's
all night long, getting attacked by Act Up and Take Back the Night people.
he's so he's so like stoic in that movie. Like he's kind of
Yeah.
like lost and focused. And in this one, he's very funny as this kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
like constantly decaying sidekick zombie ghost.
And I think that's the thing this movie does. It kind of plays in the horror comedy. It's like, hey, look at this top-notch, disgusting visual image, but we're going to cast the floppiest, happiest actors
Hmm.
and play the lightest soundtrack over top of whatever you're watching.
Yeah.
You're talking about cancel culture. I was like, honestly, I'm so glad that Zachary Levi has not been cast in a version of this because this is kind of the like Zachary Levi territory of like innocuous, handsome, floppy hair boy.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's I think hold on, let me back up just a second here because I have got off my page of cast in this there we go. I think like David Naughton is kind of perfect in this role.
Oh yeah.
He's so good here
Well,
in this
what
movie
he's
because
like he's so naked throughout a lot of this movie.
he's naked throughout a lot.
And it's not like I mean, he is sexy, but it's not sexy naked. It has a very like I forgot that John Landis did Animal House. It's a very frat boy naked. It's a
Yes.
like streaking across the football field kind of naked.
Uh-huh. Yes. Well, this driver of this sheep truck tells the boys, keep off the moors, stick to the roads.
Okay.
Jack is pretty miserable. He's very excited to get to Italy after they're
Yeah.
done. He's like, "Oh, good idea, David. Let's hike through cold ass England,
Yeah.
northern
They're like, where's
England."
the girls? There's
Uh-huh.
nothing going on here.
This is such, I mean, Landis's humor, especially at this early era, like he really is still a 20-year-old boy in his sense of humor. I mean,
Sure.
Kentucky Fried Movie is just vomiting up this type of like boy humor
Yeah.
of,
It's National Lampoon's
yeah,
style
totally.
humor.
And they can't not be talking about Jack's girlfriend Debbie, who is so boring but so sexy.
Yeah.
And uh yeah, that's it. It puts you right in track. Like right at the beginning, here's the tone of this movie, of
Yeah.
the humor of this movie. But it has these extra levels that I think are really funny. And the first is when they get to the Slaughtered Lamb pub.
Oh my God. Just the fact that it's called the slaughtered lamb.
And the logo is a werewolf's severed head on a sword.
Yes. Absolutely. Do you remember there used to be like a bar in New York City called the Slaughtered Lamb? Did you ever go there?
No, no, I didn't know that one.
I don't know. It might still be there for all I know, but it is a sort of goth bar. Is the
Uh-huh.
best way. It's leaning towards goth bar.
Okay.
I used to walk by it every once in a while on my way to work, but I go hee hee, dark.
Well, as they walk into this tiny little English pub, we are just one Foley cue short of record
I
scratch,
literally,
but it just goes silent and everyone is staring at them.
yeah.
No food. They're trying to get food.
No,
They want warm food
they're
and
like, we got beer and spirits.
she's, the waitress says no food, we just got beer and spirits. What about coffee? If you want something hot, you'd want tea. Or
Do you
do you
have
have
tea?
tea?
We
No,
don't,
but I can
but I
make
can make
some.
some. Oh, the warmth of the English, the
So good.
warm English reception.
Jack notices there's a pentagram on the wall.
Even though he keeps calling it a pentacle,
There's so many pentacle and then pentacle and
pentagram is what I'd
pentacle.
always
I
heard.
always say pentagram, and I've heard pentacle before. It's
Yeah,
just a
but
five-sided.
pentagle's a new one on me
Yeah,
because pentacle sounds like a Fisher Price board game.
a pentager. Yeah, I don't. But yeah, he's pointing out this five-sided star on the wall, and then there's candles all around it. I like that later the waitresses, she's like, "Oh, that's been up for like 200 years. We just haven't gotten around to painting
Yeah, we
over
just
it."
haven't painted over it. Lies, conspiracy.
Um, everybody kind of warms up. A man tells a really long joke, and everyone's kind of laughing. And Jack was like, "Hey, what's that star for?" Record
Record scratch
scratch.
number two.
There's a man playing darts in it. You just see the dartboard, and you see the dart like hit like 6 inches away from the dartboard itself.
You made me miss my darts.
I've never missed the board before. And these boys decide we're gonna leave.
Yeah,
And the men in the pub are like, "Good riddance, see you later. Stay on the road, keep clear of the moors, beware of the moons, lads." And the waitress is telling the one woman in this whole pub is like, we can't just let them
yeah,
leave.
yeah. It's like murder.
Yeah,
Well, murder it is.
it's in God's hands now.
We can't be taking care of every person who wanders into our village.
Yeah.
Here's my thing, David and Jack. Where the fuck were you all planning to sleep that night?
Yeah, that was my thing. I don't understand because it is nighttime.
Fully. They're just gonna walk like another 10 miles to a place that is definitely going to be closed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. As opposed to like making jokes in the slaughtered lamb, I would have been like, "Oh, you don't have food? You don't have where do we go?"
Yeah.
I think they do kind of ask that, and they're like, "Any place but here." So
Yes.
the locals are not helpful.
No.
But still, I was like, boys, are you just gonna sleep like on the moors?
Are they gonna camp out? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very strange.
Oh, youth.
So, well, now they're hiking and we see them on the road and you see them kind of they're talking to each other. It's a really great shot because you can see pretty clearly the road and you see them continue walking as the road peels off in the other direction.
Yup, they're just not paying attention.
And then they hear the howling, they look down, they realize they're not on the road anymore and they're
It's
lost
and it's raining.
and it's raining. Something is moving, circling, howling and growling near them and they're like, "Fuck, let's." They start running. David trips and falls. Jack helps him up and then gets blindsided by a
Yeah.
werewolf and just throat chewed right open.
Like there's something about the way the werewolf moves in this because you that I love. That's
Uh-huh.
so visceral because it's for the most part you only see the werewolf head
Oh, yeah.
for a lot of the movie. I mean, there's times when you do see werewolf body and of course the transformation scene, but mostly it's you just see the werewolf head and it's so big and it almost acts like a bear. Like it looks like a bear head.
Yeah.
But I think because you do see that head, like within the first 10 minutes of this movie, you're like, oh, this werewolf means fucking business.
Uh-huh.
And because it is so limited to just the head, they can actually get it in the shot, like up on Jack's neck without having to like we don't pull back, we don't see a wide shot of it happening. We just see the like contact point of violence.
Right.
And it looks it's doing the deed on Jack.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it takes Jack down pretty hard and then it turns and attacks David, but it doesn't last very long before all of those village men show up with rifles and gun it
Oh, so
down.
they grew a conscience and
They
decided to
did.
go out wandering around the moors in their shotguns.
And David is lying on the ground and passing out. And the last thing he notices is there's a naked man next to him on the ground filled with bullet holes.
Oh my, that's
Interesting.
unusual.
I just want to say as this movie goes along, we've talked before about characters in a movie existing in a world wherein vampires or werewolves or zombies do or don't exist, right? Like
Sure.
Midnight Mass is
Yeah.
one of those TV shows where they never say vampire. Like they
Yeah.
just have, they exist in a world where that lore never happened, I guess. And this is a movie too where it does take them, they do live in a world where werewolf lore exists because they keep talking about the Wolfman, the Lon Chaney old
Yeah.
Universal monster movie. Uh, but they kind of use that as the lore of
Right.
this film.
Like, have you ever seen the movie Fright Night?
I have not.
The movie Fright Night is akin to this movie, except for vampires, in that it's like American youth trying to unscramble a supernatural horror, a vampire, a werewolf, using like Universal Studios Hollywood tropes.
Okay, okay.
And it's another kind of comedy horror that has a similar vibe to it that is at once scary, but also kind of really just funny,
Hmm.
intentionally funny and like an intentional comedy. And so it's interesting, kind of thinking back to this time pre-internet, where really these things only existed in the Universal monster movies, like maybe like indie films like Wolfen and The Howling maybe were out there, but certainly not widely known enough that your average NYU student from a nice upper Midwest family would see them. So it's like really we're like, well, we got Lon Chaney and the Wolfman, Curse of the
Hmm.
Wolfman. That's about it.
Right.
Abbott Costello, Meet the Wolfman. I don't
Yep.
know.
David wakes up 3 weeks later in a London hospital, and the beautiful nurse Alex Price is
Oh,
taking care of
Alex.
him. And also being taken care he's also being taken care of by Dr. Hirsch, who is the to bring it back to the screwball comedies, Dr. Hirsch is Leslie Nielsen in the
Oh
airplane
my God.
movies.
Yes, he's British Leslie Nielsen.
He is the straight man through and through. It does
Yep.
not matter what else is happening.
Yep.
So we learn in these first scenes in the hospital that what the police report said was is that David and Jack were attacked by an escaped lunatic. And there were
Oh,
multiple witnesses that corroborated this. So the police report was like, these poor boys,
yeah.
yeah, they got attacked by an escaped lunatic, still on the loose. We don't know. Case closed. The
Well,
end.
it's like we killed him. We shot him.
Oh yeah, that's right.
We
That's right.
shot the
Yeah,
lunatic, but
yeah,
strength of 10 men. You know how it goes
yeah.
in these escaped lunatic cases.
And meanwhile, David's face and then like chest are
Like,
just covered in huge claw marks.
yeah, yeah.
uh, okay, fully unnecessary cameo by Frank Oz,
I
but
know, as the
I
American
loved it.
Embassy guy,
Uh-huh.
the like way too smiley American Embassy guy.
Who sounds just like Fozzie Bear for
Oh my
some reason.
God.
Really good, really, really good. And we're also going to meet the inspector and the deputy or the sergeant, I guess.
Classic. Classic
Classic.
comedy duo.
Mm-hmm. Uh, David is really insistent, like it wasn't a lunatic. We got attacked by like a wolf-looking thing.
Yeah.
And the inspector is like, I mean, you're gonna tell me this whole town of East Proctor is wrong? And that the
Yes.
police are wrong?
Yeah, what?
That seems rude of you.
I think at that point I would be like lifting up my shirt and being like, look at this.
Uh-huh.
Do you see this?
Uh-huh.
Claw marks. Claw marks.
Yeah.
Like not human fingernails.
David is also having these dreams
Oh my God.
of running through the forest. It takes a little bit because it's kind of just little cut-ins throughout
Yeah.
this hospital scene. There's a there's a moment where he dreams of being like running naked through the woods, jumping on a deer and eating it with his
Mmm.
teeth, just raw.
Yum. Gamey.
Hmm.
You want to stew that or make it chili, I think.
You definitely don't want to overcook your venison,
No.
but you do need to sear it a little bit. It does
Yeah.
need a little cooking.
Long slow. Long slow cook is my preference.
This trope, this like romantic comedy trope from the 80s
I know.
of just that if you're a man anywhere and there's a hot woman, you can just start flirting. It doesn't matter the
Yeah, whatever you want.
dynamics of the situation,
Nope.
whether she's your coworker or
Nope.
your nurse.
Nope.
She could be your cousin for crying out loud. It does not
Nope.
matter. If she's cute and she's in a movie with you, she's gonna sit next to David on his bed because he's not eating his food, and she cuts
And
up all his
feed
food.
him like a baby.
Hmm.
I mean, it's pretty cute.
It is cute,
Like, it's a really cute scene. However, Jeffrey,
right?
it's really later when Nurse Price is like, hey, do you have anywhere to stay? Come home with me, crazy lunatic man.
Hmm.
Come on. You have cute floppy hair. Come and sleep in my bed. I'm like, girl, there are
No.
youth hostels for a reason. Like, we can meet up after my shift tomorrow and go for a coffee.
Yeah.
But what?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm not gonna shit on any type of like hookup
No.
culture, but like
Flirt
having
away. Hell, hook up, but like, welcome to my home. I
uh,
don't know. Maybe the 80s were just a different time. I don't know.
I think so. He also has this dream of himself, David does, running through the woods and then seeing himself lying in this hospital bed with Nurse
Yeah.
Price looking over him. And then when his eyes open, he's got like full devil face almost, like not
Yeah.
quite werewolf, like long teeth, pale face, and big, big green, wolfy looking eyes. Um, Dr. Hirsch is kind of like Listen, you didn't get attacked by a monster. If monsters were real, we would have seen it on the telly.
I know, I love that. I love that as a justification. The news would have told us, right?
Hmm.
The
And then,
news never lies to us. The telly never lies to us.
that's right.
Telly is our friend. Telly is one of the family.
He also sort of feels like all of these dreams are, he has a very, like, I think a normal world logic in that, hey, listen, he went through a trauma.
Right.
Of course he's having dreams like this.
Having dreams, having some like traumatic stress, like he's remembering the event differently. He's like, just in time, your memory will come back as to what happened
Yeah.
and how it definitely wasn't a werewolf.
I think that to me, the scariest part of them, like I would say the most unnerving part of this movie are these dreams. And in fact,
Yeah.
we get into
Oh,
this
yeah.
dream sequence wherein again, Alex comes to read him a bedtime story
Yes.
to help him go to
Sure.
sleep. It's very funny that she's reading A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, which is
Okay.
a book that takes place in and around an eclipse,
Yeah.
so more moon things.
And it about an American in a British
Hmm.
mythology.
So in his dream, it's Alex back home in America. They're all kids are all hanging around watching the
Oh my
Muppet
God.
Show.
It is the most Americana, 80s Americana.
And there's a knock at the door. His dad goes to get it. There are masked men, like wolfy looking masks.
I don't even know if
Wolfie.
Wolfie, well, one, they're Nazis.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They're absolutely Nazis.
Yes.
And
Because they've
two,
got the
they're
helmet and yeah.
yeah, the helmet, like the SS helmet and the thing, and they're like zombies, demons,
Yeah. There's like gnarled looking teethy things. Yeah.
monsters, like in
Monsters.
nondescript, just monster. Which I mean, honestly, like Jonathan Landis does really good. Does the monster thing really good.
He does.
Like I feel like he was making this movie and Michael Jackson's Thriller at the same time. Like they both came
Yeah.
out in like 83, I'm pretty sure. So like
Yeah.
made
Thriller
concurrently, made at
was.
the same time, like they were being made around the same time. And you can see a lot of that like in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Thriller was 2 years after American Werewolf in London.
Okay.
So American Werewolf came out in 81 and
Okay.
then and Thriller was 1983. But you can see why gonna hire this guy to make the
Yeah.
Thriller video
Yeah.
because he just made one of the more popular monster movies. Comedy, like accessible.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
wasn't Alien or Jaws that scared the
Right.
pants off of everyone. This was uh,
This is a date night movie,
yes, totally.
you know?
So hold on just a second.
That
I'm gonna
bad
tr-
kitty.
I'm gonna
Bad kitty.
I'm gonna do my best to allow because he is
Let him
so
roam.
what
Oh.
this asshole is doing
Oh
is
no.
he's at the door of my
Looking
office
cute.
where I had closed him out and he has just pressed his feet up against it and was kicking the door to make it
Okay.
rattle and meowing.
It's like, well, now
Okay.
you're in. Just
And
let him
we'll
roam
pause in a few
freely.
minutes after you go ape shit and
And then he'll start eating your headphone cords, probably.
what he does is he climbs the rugs that I've hung on the wall for sound dampening
Okay.
because he sees himself as an Olympic athlete.
Yeah.
Okay. These armed or these masked or these zombie looking monster things show up at David's house and they come in with submachine guns and just
Yeah.
mow the kids down, the mom down, the dad down. They grab David, hold a knife to his throat,
Make him watch.
make him watch the whole thing, set fire to the house, and then cut David's throat. And then he wakes up and sees Alex sitting there still reading the story. She goes to open a window. A monster comes through and stabs her to death. Like fake dream ending.
Yeah. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Like,
mass shootings are really unnerving. And then
yeah.
this type of dream, like just this is when you've gone through trauma, like these dreams are real, man. Maybe not the specific action, but the idea that your body is churning, your brain is churning up horrible, horrible
Oh,
visions for you.
sure. Like whether it's a werewolf or not. I
Yeah.
also got the sort of like he's an American being taken care of by a British nurse,
Mm-hmm.
and he's dreaming about sort of Nazi SS soldiers
Mm-hmm.
coming into his Jewish home because we
Mm-hmm.
do see a menorah
Mm-hmm.
on that mantelpiece. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, this is like a weird the World War II geopolitics are like weirdly present in
Yeah.
this movie.
Um, Landis is Jewish, and also in his segment of Twilight Zone, the movie, it deals with a racist, Vic Morrow plays this like racist anti-Semite who then gets flashed back into different eras in time, one of which
Oh,
is being, uh, you know, mistaken, even though he gets flashed back into World War II era France
okay.
and gets mistaken for a Jew and taken it. So he goes through all of these atrocities that have happened to people, including the Jews. So it is interesting that he's very interested in this concept at this time, of course. What bigger monster than a fucking Nazi,
Yeah.
especially in 1981 when we are 25? No, 35 years removed
Yeah.
from the war. So
Yeah.
this movie is closer to Hitler being alive than we are to this movie.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and it's, and it makes sense that these are, kind of Jack and David are of that age where they're the next generation that is dealing with the aftermath. Like they
Uh-huh.
weren't part of it, but they're dealing with it. They have relatives that died in the Holocaust. They have relatives who fought in the war. They weren't there, but they're like it's a continuation of those stories that they've been told.
Uh-huh.
Like they're the ones that are like trying to process
Yeah.
now what.
Yeah. Well, that next morning when he's actually awake and has brought some breakfast, uh Jack shows up looking all
This I
cut
love it.
open face.
To me, this is the best part of this movie. Like, I know the werewolf is in the title,
Uh-huh.
but Zombie Jack is where it's at, man.
Incredible.
And again, it's because like Griffin Dunn is so freaking lovable
Mm-hmm.
and lighthearted and just the most disgusting visual effects makeup ever. I
Mm-hmm.
think that was the thing. It's like he's like I'm looking at it in your screen right
Uh-huh.
now, but he's got like a little like his neck has like been torn open and kind of wiggles whenever he talks. Like
Yep.
it's so gross. But the way the two of these two relate to each other is very much like, yeah, I'm a zombie. I know, I'm dead. But hey buddy pal, buddy old pal, can I sit on your bed? Can I eat some toast?
Yeah, his chumminess is very funny, and also each of these scenes, the they 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 elevate each time because this
Yeah.
first time is just like him alone in his hospital room and Jack visiting and kind of giving him the story of what's happening. And each visit after this, each Christmas Carol style visit
Yeah.
after this is elevated not only by the makeup but also the setting in which
Oh
there
yeah.
takes place. But in this one, he explains, "Hey, listen, because this is called the curse of the werewolf. Because I was killed by a werewolf, I'm not dead. I'm undead, meaning I am
Uh-oh.
walking around in limbo until the last remaining werewolf of this bloodline is destroyed, and that, David." Is you.
Oh no.
You need to take your own life, David, before you kill others. Beware the moon, David.
That's kind of intense.
It's very intense. Again, this movie is a pendulum of horror comedy,
Yeah.
and this scene
Yeah.
is wildly flopping back and forth because that is a very intense and scary and upsetting message to come from a really charming man.
Right? Who's like, hey, that girl that I was crushing on, she totally slept with this other dude. And by the way, you should kill yourself.
Yep. Yep.
Love you, gotta go bye.
So Okay. Alex is gonna Nurse Alex be like, "Why don't you come stay with me since you're being discharged?" Although we do know that he tells her, "Listen, my dead friend Jack was just here
Yeah.
telling me that I'm gonna become a werewolf in 2 days when the full moon is back. Maybe I'm just dreaming it." And she's like, "I don't know. Why don't you stay at my house, man, who I just met and who's in the
Huh.
hospital for
Let's talk it out.
trauma and injuries from a."
Let's bone it out.
Yeah, let's bone it out.
Like, I don't know.
She says, it's a good line to summarize exactly what she feels. "I find you very attractive and a little bit sad.
Yeah.
So let's shower and fuck."
Yeah.
And they do.
Absolutely. It's a marvelous night for a moon dance.
I had this thought where I'm like, this is a fairly tasteful sex scene, which I
Oh,
was
very
sort of
much.
surprised given Landis's kind of Kentucky Fried Movie time period. But no, he's going to come through with boobies as comedy later in
Oh,
this
for sure.
movie. Holy shit. Okay, now we've got Jack again visiting
I
him,
know.
this
Shows up the
time
next night.
at Alex's house, Alex's flat.
Now
And
he's looking a little green.
yeah, he's got a
He's looking a little petri dish.
little swamp thing-ish.
Yeah.
And um he says David's like, "I will not be threatened by a walking meatloaf." Incredible 80s
Yeah.
line. But when Alex gets up, she hears talking, but she comes in and Jack isn't there, of course. Like only David can see Jack. And she just still thinks David is, like Dr. Hirsch says, is traumatized. He's blaming himself for his
Yeah.
friend's death. So he's
Kind of makes sense.
sleepwalking, having night conversations, things like that. And this is where he posits the idea, this is such a throw in, but he sort of explains the plot of the Wolfman to her and says that in the end, when Lon Chaney as the Wolfman is killed, is it his father? I forget who it was in the
Yeah, it says his
storyline.
father kills him.
Yeah, and he says, "I'm thinking that a werewolf can only be killed by someone who loves them." Which I'm like,
Okay.
well, okay, great. Now I know the ending of this movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, technically, no, because that dude, that farmer dude, I'm pretty sure that those people did not love him.
You
I mean, or
don't know
maybe they
what they
did. Who
get up
knows?
to in East Proctor.
We don't. We don't.
Mm-mm.
He could be a much beloved man
Hmm.
who just happened to be the town werewolf. And maybe that's why they let him run around for as long as he did.
Dr. Hirsch actually heads up to East Proctor to
This
go
is
visit the
like this is
slaughtered lamb.
so interesting to me.
Hmm.
Because like we've seen, grumpy conspiracy pub, right? From
Hmm.
the point of view of the two Americans, the outsiders, the record
Hmm.
scratch, the like, you don't belong here. Okay, sure. But it's really interesting watching another Brit step into this pub,
Right.
even though he is the most posh Londonite.
Hmm.
Like you can just tell the way he uses his language, the way he's dressed is not from around here.
Yeah.
But
It
he
is.
knows the game. He knows the game of how to be British a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just trying to think if like the difference between, say, just some random English or German guy, some
Yeah.
random European that found themselves at like a Waffle House in central
Yeah.
PA.
Yeah. Versus a New
How
Yorker
how
that
versus
found
if
himself
I
in a
went to a
yeah.
Waffle House in central PA
Yep.
being like, "Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. I live in Park Slope." Uh what is that? Like how do they respond to
Yeah.
those different people? And I find that really fascinating. One, he he orders the saddest Guinness in the world because she
Yes.
gives it to him from a bottle,
Oh my God.
which
Well, after he tries to order, what he tries to order like something really, really
oh, he
highfalutin,
he
shall
tried
we
to order
say.
a Campari and soda.
And they're like, "Psh, girl, get the fuck out of here. We ain't got Campari. We don't even know how to spell Campari.
There's no way they even have soda there.
We don't even have soda. What are you talking about? You got beer. Your choices are beer
Yeah.
and gin that
You have
was
an
made in a bathtub out back.
you have a warm ESB on tap.
Absolutely.
and we've got Guinness in a bottle.
And
There you
Guinness in a
go.
bottle. He only drinks like 2 sips of it anyway.
Yeah. So, but yeah, there I like the power dynamic here because he
Yeah.
moves with more impunity throughout this
Yeah.
bar than those boys did. And he is more confident and he's more
Yep.
grounded in himself. And you can tell he's getting under these men's skin.
Yeah.
Because like there's chess man and there's darts man.
Yes.
Chess man feels kind of like the leader of the group, like
Yeah.
kind of the father figure
He was the
of
one who
this
told the
pub.
joke. He's the loud mouth.
Hmm.
He was also the one who was like, they're in God's hands. So like clearly he's a bit of the bully. He's the
Hmm.
bully of the town.
Yeah. And the darts man is like, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm just gonna go check on my dogs. And they're like, your dogs are fine. He's like, but I'm gonna go check on. He just like skedaddles.
Yeah.
Darts man does. Well, Dr. Hirsch doesn't get much out of them. Like they won't tell him about the pentagram and the candles. They wants to know why the boys were telling stories about, or why David was telling stories about werewolves. They won't talk, and he's like, "All right, see you later." And he steps outside to drive away, and there's Dartsman standing in the corner between two buildings, and he tells him, he says, "That boy is in danger, and not just him. It's almost full moon.
He's gonna
He's
change.
gonna change. Lots of people are in danger." And Chessman comes out and is like, "That's enough. Silence."
I know. They do love a conspiracy village over there in
Oh, they
England, don't
do.
they?
They
I
do.
think this movie come out did this movie come out the same time as Wicker Man as well?
No, Wicker Man was like 73 or
Oh, is
something
that
like
much
that.
earlier? That's much
Yeah.
earlier. What did
Yeah.
we watch? We watched some movie. God damn it. Oh, it was last week's movie. Sorry, I'm confusing. Last week's movie, I think it was like was played on a double bill with Wicker Man.
Oh, yeah, of Don't Look Now and
Don't
The
look
Wicker
now in
Man.
Wicker Man. I was
Okay,
like,
yep.
that is a fucking night out at the cinema.
Those are two very different movie going experiences.
Yes, very much. But anyway, so sorry. Last week's movie, this
Yes.
week's movie, Conspiracy
But
Village.
not too far removed from The Wicker Man at
Yeah,
all, right?
yeah.
So now we're gonna have it's the day of the full moon, but it's daytime, so
Oh,
we're just all still good. I see a
I
bad
know. Yep,
moon rising.
we get a jaunty little montage of how bored David is at Alex's uh apartment.
Yes.
You know, like he's like looking in the fridge, being like, "Oh, I'm not really hungry." Tries to read a book. He goes back to the fridge. I'm still not hungry.
Uh-huh.
Tries to lay down and take a nap. Can't really get comfortable.
No.
But
It's
once
just
that
so
moon comes
many.
out,
There's a very long scene of him pacing back and forth in the living room
yeah,
that I was shocked at how long this scene was.
yeah,
It went on for a while, but I think it does give the restlessness feeling
yeah.
so well. And then there's a moment where he's sitting at home, he's finally reading, and he just is like, "Oh, Jesus Christ."
He's like, I'm on fire.
Burning up, and we go into the
He rips
wolf.
all of his clothes off.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So much naked David. And yeah, he starts going into this transformation, and the first thing that happens are his hands
Oh my
elongate
God.
like below the
Yeah.
fingers, like the
Yeah. It's like the palm extends. And to me, this shot like of like David Naughton,
Mhm.
the actor, looking at his hand that is extending and screaming is like the screen grab of
Yes.
this film.
Yeah. So I wanted to say that this the special effects in this movie were done by Rick Baker. So very famous special effects guy. Worked on Star Wars, worked on this movie, worked on lots and lots of films. One interesting thing that I had learned from the podcast, What Went Wrong? I'll bring that podcast up. But one thing I learned about them when listening to their episode on The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing,
Oh,
was
okay.
that there was a young man named Rick Botten. I've always said I've seen Bottin. I don't know if it's
Okay.
Botan. I'm gonna call him Botten because that's how I've seen it. But
That's what it
Rick
looks like. Yeah.
Rick Botten did the he did the special effects for The Thing. He was very young when he did those. It was a classic case, not classic, but like this sort of as a young man, he was a big fan of Rick Baker.
Okay.
Sent him some drawings along with a fan letter, but he sent him these drawings that he did and was just like, I love your work. I love this. I loved it when you did this and blah, blah, blah. And Rick Baker saw his drawings. He's like, let's meet up. Let's talk about things and what you're doing. And then Rick Baker invited Rob Bottin to work on Star Wars with him. He was his apprentice
Okay.
on the Star Wars movies. And actually, Rob Bottin was a very tall man, so they cast him as one of the people in the Mos Eisley bar. He's one of the
Okay.
band members. Anyways, all of this to be said, it was a very cool, mentor-mentee
Oh, I love
relationship.
that.
And it was
I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, Jeffrey. I'm like,
well,
and then one of them
and then one of them murdered the other.
sold the other one
No, I
out.
think they
Yeah.
had a great relationship
Okay.
throughout. But the thing was, he helped Rob Bottin along, and Rob Bottin got a movie shortly after American Werewolf went into production. Rob Bottin got to work on The Howling, and he was hired not as their special
Okay.
effects director, but was hired only to do, because he was still new in this industry,
Right.
but can you do the werewolf transformation scene for our
Okay.
movie, The Howling? And he did, and it's very good. It's very slimy. It's a
Yeah.
very slimy, gross, like coming out of a chrysalis sort of thing. And The Howling ended up being released 3 months before An American Werewolf in
Oh
London. So
no.
it was a thing wherein like that was like the Howling transformation was kind of the first big gross, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
really
yeah, yeah.
expressive werewolf transformation. And Rick Baker's was supposed to be that
Yeah.
here. And they're two very different scenes, so they're both very good, but it was sad that Rick Baker's
He
American
kind of got
Werewolf in London
undercut.
scene got
But I mean, like,
upstaged.
Hollywood does that shit all the
It
time. They're
does.
like, oh, well, this studio's doing a werewolf film. Now we got to do a werewolf film and we got to rush it out.
Yep,
But these movies are very different tonally.
totally. Let's talk about
Now,
this transformation.
this is this is a lot.
Hmm.
I love it because it is one, the music choice is wild, Jeffrey. It is the jauntiest, happiest, like like late night FM radio music choice.
Uh-huh.
Like nobody makes choices like this anymore. They're like, you're gonna watch this that's one, music choice. Two, full light. Because if you think about the werewolf transformation in,
The
The
Howling.
Howling,
Yeah.
it's it's super dark. It's a lot of strobe lights. It's a lot of obscuring things, and then a lot of cut back to. Remember when we talked about that movie? It's a lot of like you'll see a bit of transformation, and then you'll see like the main actresses reacting to the transformation
Hmm.
in the look of horror on her face. It's a lot of that. This, no, like 120-watt bulbs,
Yep.
like living room above light. And then it's the fact that it's so incremental.
Yes.
Like it's fucking amazing. And it's in its face, its hands, its full body. Dude, when his body elongates,
Mm.
it's the feet. It's the fact that like his back not only sprouts hair, but then sprouts hair and then like the spine protrudes is like a completely different special effect.
Uh-huh.
It's it's crazy how many levels of transformation there are in this.
And I think all of the makeup and animation of the change is so good. And I think the element for me that I think pulls it all together is there's a shot of him lying on his back, like fully naked now, but like half wolfed out.
Yeah.
And the way in which he's lying there it's still demonstrating his humanity. It's kind of a
Yeah.
halfway point where visually he is half wolf, half man, but also the fear and the pain
It's the
and
pain.
confusion in his face
Yeah.
as to what is happening to him is so good. And the way he still looks like he's posed like human baby, in a
Yeah.
crib, lying
Yeah.
naked, knees up in the air. All of that, I was like, that is the most like grounding moment of all of this, which I think helps keep this transformation tethered to reality, which makes it
Sure.
even more terrifying.
Yeah. Because it's not until the very last bit that the wolf face happens that we get, which is a fucking awesome effect when like the snout grows out, but it's very towards the end, which means that you have an actor, you can kind of see his eyes, and it looks like this hurts so much.
Yeah.
So like we hear like the sound of bones breaking,
Hmm.
elongate it, like it sounds, and it's mostly the pain on the actor's face
Yeah.
that kind of sells this.
It's tremendous. And then we cut to a young couple arriving
Now,
at a dinner party on a
which
night
I'm
out.
gonna say, hey Jeffrey,
Uh-huh.
how'd that werewolf get out that apartment?
Without anyone noticing, without a
Without
broken
breaking a
window.
window? Did he
Yes.
open a door? Did he like latch the door behind him? Because we know Alex comes home and she's like, I don't know, where's David? Everything seems normal here.
It's a
How'd that
very
werewolf
good
get
point.
out?
Well,
I just like to imagine
the
like
end.
this
Thank you all for listening.
great and good night. No, I just like to imagine this like insanely detailed werewolf transformation, and then the werewolf like full werewolfed out, just like daintily like latching the latch, like
Uh,
on like pulling the door closed, very dainty, and then like oh, and then like running off into
right,
the
right,
street.
right. It's a very good question. There's straight up continuity, or it was a little bit like I was obsessed with David Hirsch's or Dr. Hirsch's sad Guinness because he had a couple moments where he
Oh
takes
yeah,
a
no, he's
sip and it's at a different level all
oh
the
every
time.
time.
The
Yeah, I know, I
Guinness
noticed
keeps
that too.
refilling itself. Okay, so this young couple arriving
I
at
love this.
taking a cab to a friend's house, a little dinner party with
This
another couple.
this is like Margaret Thatcher
Oh my
80s
God.
to the max.
Yeah.
Like, oh, should we go run back and surprise him? Yes, let's go surprise the fuck out of him. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, he'll be so surprised.
So they're gonna sneak around the back door of their friend's house, but they get fucking eaten. Just
Yeah.
full on attacked by David
Darling, did
Werewolf.
you hear something? No, whatever did you hear, darling?
Yeah.
But it's really the fact that we then go into the apartment and we see the other yuppie couple that are like lighting candles and getting
Sean
like,
and
oh, they'll be
Tina or
here.
whoever.
I
Yeah.
know, whatever. They'll be here any moment. Well, maybe you should go look for him. He's got like a fucking brandy glass or something, or a stemless wine glass,
Uh-huh.
maybe. But he's like, hello, hello. And he kind of takes a few steps and he like trips over something, and it's a severed arm.
This is so good because not only is it a severed arm, but the squish sound they play when
Oh
he steps
God.
in the blood pool next to it. Ugh.
And I think that's like with Jack's zombie ripped face and with this severed arm, it's like it's floppy in a way that we imagine skin to be floppy, not necessarily like a rubbery mass.
Yeah.
You know, like when you think like Halloween store, low budget, it's like a prop that it's like a dummy versus
Mhm.
this is like it moves like chicken skin. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
uh-huh.
Like it
Uh-huh.
has that it's so gross.
So good. I think this is really interesting because they don't play the scene stops here. We never
Yeah.
see what happens to Sean and I don't
No.
know if that's their names, but we never see their response to it. And when I talk about horror comedy on a pendulum, I
Yeah.
find it really interesting what Landis is doing here, which is how far can I swing it one way before
Yeah.
I swing it back to the other? Because if you go too far, it's harder to recover. So if you start covering this couple screaming,
Yeah.
you might be pushing it too far because you're like,
It's
that's
drama.
that's traumatic,
It's yeah, it's too dramatic. But if you
especially for
cut it
side characters.
but
Yeah,
if you cut it just the right point, you're like, oh, we know these yuppies. Oh my gosh, we just imagine. Oh my gosh,
yeah,
can you imagine what these yuppies are doing? But we imagine it. The same thing with the next scene with the three homeless people and the dog.
yeah,
The
yeah.
gorgeous shot of the Tower Bridge one. I do
Hmm.
like that this movie, um, as opposed to Don't Look Now, which is like shot in the most picturesque city, but makes it look so gray and gross.
Hmm.
This movie is like, you want Piccadilly Circus, you got Piccadilly Circus. You want Trafalgar Square, you got Trafalgar. You want the Tower Bridge, you got the Tower Bridge. Like,
Yeah,
You want the double-decker bus? You want the telephone booth? We're gonna give you the best of London, kid.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's weird how he kind of works in these landmarks, but they're always kind of in the background. Like, it's not a gorgeous shot. It's just subtly there. Just be like,
Yeah.
hey, London is really pretty at night.
Yeah.
The UK Tourism Board paid them a fuck ton of money for this movie.
I think my favorite shot of seeing real London is the tube
Oh,
station,
well,
because you
this,
go to Tottenham Court Road, which is a
yeah,
station I've been in a million times,
yeah,
and it is seeing the train system in
yeah,
1981 and just seeing the underground. And it's similar to when I watch New York City movies. I have a real
yeah,
fondness for London. Spent some time there with friends, and I love seeing London from 40 years ago. I love
yeah,
seeing New York City from 40 years ago. And it's so funny how they look almost identical. It's just the
yeah.
facades of the businesses have all changed. The technology of the billboards in Piccadilly Square and Times Square in New York City are just a different level of brightness now.
Sure. Well, they're
But
advertising porno in the
y
theaters
yes,
and
again, and
not,
that's like Times Square too.
and
Yeah.
not ABBA or
Yes.
Mamma Mia the musical.
Mamma Mia. Yep. Yeah, so that we've got the homeless fellows by the Tower Bridge. Their dog Winston is
He
freaking
runs the
out.
fuck off. Winston's like, I'm out of here, man.
Yep. And then they hear scary, creepy howling. They're like, "That's not Winston."
Winston.
Boom,
But that's
werewolf.
all we get. That's all we need to know
That's
from
it.
those guys. Now
And
I
then
gotta
we
say, this
Mhm.
scene is like if I was teaching a film studies class of like how to do horror, this sequence, like the tube sequence, is like pound for pound, no pun intended, like how you build suspense.
Tottenham Court Road Station, Northern Line. Man alone on the train platform as he gets off the train.
Stops and get a little chocolate.
Yes.
That was my thing. I think the first time I ever went to London, I was like, they sell chocolate on the subway? This place is amazing. I'll get two crunchies. Thank you.
And then he hears some growling and some snarling.
But you don't see anything.
You don't see anything, and it's standing alone on a train
Yeah.
platform, an
Yep.
underground train platform, is upsetting in
Yeah.
any circumstance.
You're really exposed. It has a bit of that like swimming pool scare,
Hmm.
because it's a large empty space. There's really only one way in and one way out, and danger could come from literally any direction. So like you think you can see everything around you, but you're all by yourself in a
Yeah.
really echoey, shadowy space.
Yeah.
I do love that this yuppie, again, very yuppie 1980s Margaret Thatcher, he's like, I shall report this, that someone is menacing me.
This is not amusing.
Yeah. It's like, I shall report this. I'm like, what you gonna report,
Yeah.
sir? Somebody was growling on the subway at fucking 1 o'clock in the morning.
Well, he goes up and if you've been to London and have taken the tube before, you know that the escalators are many.
The escalators are many and these kind of like they're interconnected. Like it's a little labyrinth down there.
Yes, you can get a little lost if you're not paying attention. And so he's going up the escalator. An amazing shot of the side by side of the camera and
Yeah.
the escalator next to him, following him up and seeing all the ads. It's still the same, just
Still
different
the same.
ads,
Yep.
different graphic design, but same thing. And he eventually finds himself in another one of those like long tunnels that's going to lead him to another
Yeah.
escalator, and that's where we get the low profile killer cam
I
haunting him
love
through
it.
that.
And it's like the first time he sees again, it's like he sees what's chasing him before we do,
Hmm.
which is such a low but like it's building that suspense to be like to watch this actor's reaction. We're like, oh fuck, he is scared and starts running. Like he's so scared he drops his briefcase
Yeah, yeah,
and his umbrella.
yeah. This is the lesson of Jaws, right? It's scarier to
Yeah,
not show the
yeah,
monster than to show the monster, which was the thing of That was the other thing I learned in that Thing episode from What Went Wrong, which was John Carpenter insisted that I don't know what the creature looks like or what we're going to design, but my one rule is no people in rubber suits. I do not
Yeah.
want a person in a suit
Yeah.
because the moment you see, listen, Alien is a very scary movie, but the moment you see it stand up for the first time, you're like, oh, that's
Yeah.
just a guy in a suit.
That's a guy in a suit. And I do love that when you do actually see the werewolf, it is from the farthest vantage point,
Uh-huh.
and it's pretty far away, and you only see like the top two-thirds of its body.
Yeah.
But this is the first time you actually see it in full, I would say. And you don't even really see it in full. I don't
No.
think you see this werewolf in full the entire film.
No. And,
Like not
maybe
even at the end.
yeah, at the end you see the most of it and you see it wandering around, but you also know that at the end, it's no longer a monster, it's an animal,
Yeah.
if that makes
And it's
sense.
crouched, it's hiding in darkness.
Yeah, it actually looks a little scared and
Yeah.
confused even while it's being aggressive. It looks like a cornered dog,
Yeah.
which it is.
Yeah.
But in this moment, we just get this thing pouncing on him. I think all of the chase, all of the stop fooling around, whoever's making that noise, to the him seeing the animal, to the full
Yeah.
chase is on, to the you think maybe he's going to get away. I think what really seals the deal, and this is a great horror sequence, chase sequence, is he trips and falls. One, his briefcase flies open with
Yeah.
paper
Love it.
to enhance it, but he face plants into an escalator.
I know,
And I'm
right?
like, oh, that
Yeah.
is,
Like you go, ouch. Yeah. Like you like sympathetic ouch.
yeah. And then
And then
the
killer
camera just
cam
on
right
top
up
of it.
into his face.
Cut to next day, we're at the zoo. Meanwhile, oh, by the way, I should mention that during these death sequences on the first night of the full moon, we've got Dr. Hirsch reaching out to Alex because she's working at the hospital, so
Yeah.
she doesn't know David's gone. They're trying to call her flat, but he's not answering the
Yeah.
phone.
And Dr. Hirsch is like, I went to that town and they're fucking weird.
Yeah. And he says, not that I believe in werewolves, but if this whole town is obsessed with werewolves, David is convinced he was killed by a werewolf. He might actually be out pretending to be a werewolf and
Right.
harming people because he has been told
He's
this
caught some, yeah,
during
he's
a
caught
trauma.
some sort of mania, some sort of
Yes.
madness from
Yeah.
them.
And yeah, next morning, the zoo, there's lions and
Monkeys,
monkeys.
lions.
And David wakes up naked in the wolf enclosure.
What other movie did we get this in? Is it one that we
Or
watched for this show? I feel like the like waking up naked at the zoo
oh,
is a nut.
it was Altered States.
That's it. Thank you. I was
Yes.
like, I know it was recent. Yep.
Yeah. He woke up in the monkey enclosure, I think. No, he woke up in the sheep enclosure because he
Oh,
was
that's right.
eating
Because he
the
was trying
sheep.
to eat the sheep.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. David wakes up in the wolf enclosure, which this is a nerve-wracking scene because that is David Naughton for real, naked next to wolves.
Oh, those wolves are
Oh, they're
fine.
very
They're
cute,
just
but
they're
listen,
so cute.
I'm not getting near a chimpanzee. I
Yeah, I
know
know, right?
I'm not getting near a wolf.
You're like, I've
Um,
seen the movie Nope. I know what can happen.
I will barely get next to your labradoodle for fuck's
Yeah, I
sake. I
don't. Yeah,
just,
no.
yeah. Robert is the largest animal I will take care of, and he
Is a
could
small
kill me
cat.
if he wanted
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
A lot of very strategious dick hiding in
Yep.
this.
This is the ultimate of screwball comedy stuff,
Yeah.
right? He finds himself naked. He keeps running into very proper pearl wearing older
Right.
women, being like, "Oh,
Nope.
excuse
Excuse me,
me."
pardon me. Runs away.
Runs away. The sequence with the little boy in his what is this British child, upper crust British child
I
outfit
mean,
this little
he
boy
goes to
is
like a
wearing?
private school,
Sure.
with the little short pants, and he's got balloons.
Uh-huh.
I do love that he's like, hey, kid, hey, come over here. What? I'll give you £1 for those balloons. No. And then like it's a cutback and you don't see David. It's just the bush.
Uh-huh.
So it's just the bush talking. It's so absurd and so dumb
I like
and so
this
funny.
child's dialogue too, because David's like, 2 pounds. I'll give you 2 pounds. I'll give you 2 pounds for the
He's like, all
things. He's
right. And the
like,
kid's
who
like,
are
okay.
you? And he's like, I'm a balloon thief. And the kid's like,
Why would a
why would
balloon thief want to give me a pound?
he's like, come here and I'll show you. And then he takes the balloons and runs. A very funny, super wide shot of a
Yeah.
park bench by a river. David runs from right to left across your radio dial, grabs the red
Yeah.
coat from this woman, and darts off again. So like posh old woman,
Yeah.
red jacket with fur with a fur collar.
I think I've discovered the spiritual twin to this movie is Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I could see totally a John
Like if
Hughes
I were to
coming out
if
of this. Yeah.
like I would put like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and this movie on a double feature.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
So interesting. Well, he manages to get himself all the way back to Alex's apartment. And
Even though
so,
how do you pay for that bus fare?
well, I'm only assuming that this woman had left
Had
some
money in her coat. That yeah.
coins
I
in her
thought about that too, but I
coat.
was like, I do love the a lot of weather we're having as the most innocuous. I'm gonna have to like remember that one. A lot of weather we're having.
Just nonstop. It's always
It's the
coming at
weather
you, that
keeps
weather.
coming. Yeah, it just keeps
Uh-huh.
coming. We've had a lot of it recently, haven't we?
Um, so when he gets back to see Alex, it's interesting. He's in this really, really
Yeah.
bubbly mood. He's like, I don't remember what happened last night. I remember being at your apartment. I remember this thing, and then I was reading a book, and the next thing I know, I woke up inside at the
A
zoo, and man,
zoo.
I feel so alive. Never felt
Yeah.
so alive. Let's do it. And
Yeah, let's have sex before you go to work. She's like, okay. But Dr. Hirsch has been like, hey, Alex, has David come back? Yes, he has. Okay, how does he seem? Oh, he seems all right. Maybe a little energetic. Okay, handsy, sure. Have you seen the newspapers this morning? She's
uh-huh.
like, no. Like, you need to get David here and don't let him see the news, or else
Yeah.
he's gonna rabbit.
And Dr. Hirsch says, "Can I send you a car?" She's like, "No, a cab would actually be faster." But a cab is a huge mistake
Yeah, because those
because,
chatty black cab
yep.
drivers.
And the cabbie is like, "Oh, you see the story about the—"
I
I
know,
can't do a
right?
British accent, but the 6 murders last night, all mutilated. This is like he brings up the
Like the
demon
Demon
barber of
Barber of Fleet
Fleet
Street,
Street.
it is.
Uh-huh. And David is like, "No,
Uh-oh.
no." He's like Robert being kicked out of my office when I'm trying to record.
Yeah.
No, no, no,
No,
no,
will not.
not tolerate. And this to me is probably the most ludicrous scene of this movie. I get what they're
Yeah.
going for, but to me, one, it's so rash, but he's trying like I get rashness because he's a werewolf, but he's also like it's rash in a way where but he's trying to like he wants
He's
to
trying to
not
get
hurt
arrested.
people. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so he rather than like trusting the doctor, he wants to trust the cops can keep him.
But
Like,
here's the like you're right. Like this is I mean also the comedy is a little it's a lampoon. It's a little national lampoon here.
yeah,
You know, like the Queen is a man, Prince Charles is a faggot, like, you
yeah,
know, a bit of that.
uh-huh,
But it's this thing of like, dude, Alex is taking you to the doctor who's called the police who are
yes,
familiar with your case. Remember those police officers that you talked to like 2 days ago? It's those guys, as opposed to walking up to like your average cop on the street who's like directing school children at Trafalgar Square.
yeah.
Like a
He's like, I
bit
don't have time
too
to
screwball.
arrest you,
Yeah.
Uh,
As opposed to being like, well, just get back in the taxi. Let's go back to the, I don't know.
yeah. The whole decision
Stretches a bit
makes
thin.
it does, and I think it's going for some level of comedy. I just don't think it lands at all.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that it does is that it gets David away from her.
That's the real reason. Like we
That's the
need
real
David by
reason.
himself.
Yes. And he ends up in Piccadilly Square and he uses a payphone to call collect back home. Again, a very sweet scene where
Yeah.
his 8-year-old sister, 10 and a half year old
Yeah.
sister answers the phone. And this is such a good because we don't ever hear
No.
her on the phone, but you can hear her like through the
Yeah.
way he performs
You
this one-sided
understand
conversation.
how he's talking. Like it's very suburban.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean you're all by yourself? I would have never been all by like
I
mom and dad never would have let me stay by myself when I was 10.
or okay, sorry, 10 and a
Okay, 10
half.
and a half.
Yeah.
But like it's a very suburban, and we've also seen his family relationship back at home
Hmm.
in upstate New York or, the suburbs of Chicago or
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, he's wearing an NYU t-shirt, or we see Alex wearing an NYU t-shirt. So
Yeah,
I'm assuming it's Connecticut, New Jersey adjacent.
I think they're totally tri-state area. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, I really loved this scene. I thought it was like one of the best one-sided phone calls I've watched in a
Yeah.
scene before. And it's just him saying like, "Listen, just I know mom and dad are at home. Just tell them I love them."
Yeah.
You can understand that she's like, "Why? What's your deal?" And then by
Yeah.
the time he gets off the phone, he says, "I love you too," which was very sweet because he
Hmm.
got her to understand. This scene is, I think, impeccably written. I think it's so good.
Yeah.
It conveys exactly what he wants to. And then at the end of the call, he holds his like cheap ass knockoff
That's the
Swiss
thing
Army
that
knife to
kills me.
his
It's
wrist.
like all of that sentiment perfectly, and then you just kind of blow it with the jankiest Swiss Army knife
Yeah.
in a phone booth in the middle. Like, come on, man. What do you
Oh,
like? I would have rather have seen him do the step in front of the bus trope,
yes.
because that seems much more plausible. And I think because we do have this really kind of emotional scene of like him saying goodbye to his family, and then the comedy is too silly
Yeah.
because it's this stupid, silly, tiny little butter knife that couldn't cut through anything.
Yeah.
Versus, I think if he had like walked out of the phone booth and kind of done the thing where he stands on the curb and he's trying to hype himself up to step in front of a double-decker bus, that's that to me is a real and present danger. And also says it kind of gives the suicide he's been prompted to do by his undead friend some weight.
Yes.
But I don't think Jonathan Landis ever wants us to really think that he's going to do this.
No.
Like it's kind
No.
of treated as a joke. Like he's gonna, I kind of get, but it's never really an option.
No, it's really not. Hey, the step in front of a bus trope would have actually worked because we realize, according to this movie, the speed limit through
Oh
Piccadilly
my God.
Circus is
Dude, that
120
fucking car,
kilometers per
we're
hour.
gonna get to that car crash in a minute. People are going 90 miles an hour throughout like crowded central
Yeah.
London,
Uh-huh.
zone one.
Okay. But then he sees across the street at this adult cinema, he sees
Oh, look,
Jack being like,
there's
"Come on
Jack.
over."
Come see you next Wednesday.
Oh my God. He steps into the theater, sits on the back row, and has a conversation with Jack. This fucking porn that they're watching
I
is
love it.
so funny.
It's hilarious. I mean, it's like there's like a blonde guy and a girl are like, making out in bed, and this big tough dude walks in and is like, "Hey, I thought I told you never to do this." And the guy's like, "You never told me that." "Oh no." It's like, "I don't know what."
Well, the girl says, and the girl says, "I've never even seen you before. I don't know you."
He's
And he
like,
goes,
"Oh,
"Oh, terribly sorry," and
terribly sorry.
leaves. And then later, her sex is always getting interrupted. There's a phone call,
I
and she's
love
like,
it.
"Oh no, I think this is a wrong number." "Oh yeah, no worries." Hangs up and goes back to having sex.
Comedy.
Very funny.
See, that's where I'm like, yeah, comedy. That's great because, and there is again the weird kind of connection between this movie, werewolf transformation in a porno theater,
Mm,
The Howling, werewolf transformation in a porno theater,
yeah,
but tonally they could not be more different.
agreed. Yeah,
Like I remember the first time I saw The Howling, that scene of the transformation where you remember where she's like, she's the investigative reporter and she's trying to like follow the serial killer in a very like David Fincher-esque, like looking for the little smiley face thing, and it's like strobe lights and icky and dirty and like I was really scared the first time I saw that movie. This comedy. Like
Hmm.
Zero Mostel, Mel Brooks.
Yeah. It's so good, and it fulfills the need of this kind of like the screwball comedy to have
Yeah.
tits in it,
Yeah.
but to not to make those tits your main actress, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Necessarily.
And I think that's like the lovemaking scene with Jenny Agutter,
Uh-huh.
Agutter is very tasteful.
Yes. Yeah, you're seeing just
Like,
you see more of David than you really see of her when
yeah.
you talk about like nudity,
But
but
it's always like
here,
the elbows are always just in the right place.
yes.
Like it's
Yeah.
always like you can tell it's very choreographed
Yes, totally.
because she's the lead actor and she
Yes.
has that shit in her contract.
All right, so we're having this conversation in the back of this adult theater. One, Jack is really decomposed now. He is just
He is,
Griffin Dunn is only voicing because we're
nope,
now skeleton
full
puppet.
animatronic
Hmm.
crypt keeper.
And then he introduces David to the man on the tube
I
platform
love
that he
it.
devoured.
Again, this makeup is so good. And it's like, and he goes to put his hand, he's like, "Oh, pleasure to meet you." And it's just like that red hand.
Uh-huh.
Like that color red, it's like it's not real, but it's great.
So what ends up happening in the back two rows of this theater, we've got the man from the tube station, we've got the couple that got
The yuppie
eaten,
couple.
the
Yep.
and the yuppie couple, and we've got the three homeless guys. And it's very funny because they're all kind of telling the same thing, led by Jack, which is, listen, you gotta stop. You're all of these people are like me now.
We're now all walking the
We
earth
need
forever
we
until
need to
you die.
And he's like, I don't even know how to begin to do that. And somebody's like, hang yourself. And Jack's like, no, don't hang yourself because that can go wrong. And then it could be really painful. And the homeless guy's like, I don't care. I
Yeah.
don't know this fucker. Like,
Yeah.
hang yourself.
And I love how like bubbly the yuppie couple are. They're like, "Oh,
Yes.
yes, a bullet to the brain. Oh, that would be the best."
Uh-huh. What about
Oh,
a
bu-
knife? Oh, a drowning car
oh.
crash. Yeah. So
So
funny.
funny.
And then I do love this moment when David says, "Don't oh, if I use a gun, like don't I need a silver bullet?" And Jack's like, "David, be serious."
I know, right, right. Like that's the thing. That is the ridiculous part of this whole scenario.
Mhm. But he starts transforming
Yeah.
at the back of the theater and
I
he's
get, which is
telling
kind of funny. Like he's been in that movie theater for like 12 full hours. Because
for
like
yeah.
he got into that movie theater when Alex was leaving for work in the morning.
Yeah. I mean,
And
we
which
assume
makes, I
it's
mean,
winter time, so maybe the sun sets at like 4. I don't know.
it's just sort of the indecision of like, I don't know where to go. Like to me, we don't get as much of the pacing back and forth,
Hmm.
waiting for the transformation to happen here. But we assume that's what's going on. He's like stuck in this porno theater for like hours trying to figure out his next move.
Hmm.
But he waits too long.
And he
You know,
starts
some, that happens when you just jerking off for hours and
hours
hours. Then
on
you're like, oh
end.
no, it's nighttime now. Crap, I should do something other than this.
And he's trying to warn these other patrons of this cinema to get out, get away, but they
Yeah, it's like the
don't.
dude with the flashlight. Like,
Yes.
what's going on back here? Oh, oh
Uh-oh.
dear.
Oh dear. And the cops are all showing up at the theater. There's chaos. The
The,
usher
the
is
ticket lady, oh my God, like the most Cockney ticket lady, like,
uh-huh.
there's a mad dog. Mad dog in the theater. Just screaming, just hysterical screaming. The cop is like, the porno's going full blast, which I love.
Uh-huh.
So there's like again the like weirdest soundtrack this movie has for the scary scenes. So like sexy noises.
Yes.
This cop is like searching row by row this porno theater, and he finds the dead body.
He does. I do like that this cop here is like has the right idea. He's like, and he sees the werewolf gnawing on
And
another body.
out.
Out, close the metal
Yeah,
gate on
trap
the
it.
front of
Trap the
the.
werewolf. Trap
Yeah,
it.
smart move. It doesn't work, but it's
No.
the smartest thing you can do here.
And I gotta say, man, people in the days before cell phones, they love a mob scene.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we love a mob scene with cell phones, but we're all filming it rather than like trying to get a look at what's happening. There is like 100 people
Yeah.
just because there's like two cops screaming about like, get more cops.
Uh-huh.
But it becomes a bit of a madhouse. This bit of a scene.
Really does. I love that the crowd just keeps following the
Yeah,
cops and the werewolf, and I'm like, I am out of there.
I
Like,
know, right? Like people are running across the street. They're like, "Oh, I hear a commotion. Let's see what's happening. Let's get right up to it." But that wolf busts out through the fucking porno theater.
well, one, it's right as the inspector
Yes. Oh my
and his
God.
deputy show up at the scene, being like,
They're
"What's
like,
going on? What's happening here?"
and,
Wolf
and,
busts out and
and
immediately pops the inspector's head off like a cork.
full decapitation. Full decapitation. Just like in passing, just a like casual decapitation.
Hmm.
Keeps on going. Which I love that it's like, here's this authority figure that was introduced, like, oh, the, well, your story is ridiculous. There's no such thing. And he's like, gets his doubting end.
Yeah.
Full decapitation. I love that the werewolf is just like roaming through the streets, snapping at people
Uh-huh.
because it can't bite people because we need the werewolf curse to end with David. But I love that it's like like snapping at it's very Muppety. It's very
Yep.
puppety,
Hmm.
but it has a personality to it. It has a like it feels real.
It does, and I also, like I said earlier, like I think they gave this werewolf here an animal look to it. You know, when we
Yeah.
talked about underworld of like they're made
They're
they're made
hor
to look
they're
like,
seahorse lichens.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're weird slime monster, like they're monstrous.
They're
And then
more they have more akin to like the Spartans in 300 than
mhm.
they do to a wolf.
And
This
this looks
feels like
like
a wolf.
it feels like dog related, and there's an
Dog bear, man bear
yeah.
pig,
Yeah, and I
as they
think
would say
that's
on South
what is
Park.
so important here to the scene is that it needs to look scary the way that an animal is scary
Yeah.
when it's on the loose. If a black bear is on the loose in
Yeah.
Times Square,
Yeah.
Black Bear in Times Square is my new children's book series.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So if a black bear was like on the loose in Times Square, we'd be like very scared, but we also recognize it's very scared. That
Yes.
doesn't mean we can reason with it, but it means that we understand it. And I think the fact that this beast is so comprehensible now,
Yeah.
I think that's what makes this a much more compelling scene. But it is interspersed with the most
Oh
wild
my God.
car deaths.
The 80s loved a car crash up. They fucking loved a car. If it was the 70s, these cars would be exploding upon impact into balls of fire.
Hmm.
But it's the 80s, so it's just like um like a car, like the double-decker bus avoids the werewolf and then slams into a car and someone gets spit out through the
The
windshield
plate
of the
glass
car.
window.
Like another car rams a person into a American Travelers Express bank window. A fucking motorcycle goes skidding because everyone is driving above the speed limit. Now, listen, I have been to Trafalgar Square, and that shit is like 2 miles an hour,
Yes.
five, 10 at tops.
Yeah. No, you're gonna get bruised really bad if you get hit by a car in Piccadilly Square
It's
or
it's
Piccadilly
more like
Circus.
fender bender
Yeah.
speed
Yeah.
than full velocity propelling a human
It's
body out
so
of a window
and
speed.
just the number of like dummy bodies that get like run
I
over by a
love it.
careening car and just splattered and people
Because we
flying
need a
through
big ending. We
windows.
need a big finale, but
Yeah.
we can't have the werewolf make another werewolves, you
No,
know?
that's totally true. And no one is clearing out of this. The crowd is following. The
Pandemonium.
David Werewolf ends up going down this alley, which they realize is a dead end. And
You see the bus of a special police force unit that has the rifles. They're
uh-huh.
loading the bullets into the rifle.
Yeah, so they've got and Alex and Dr. Hirsch are arriving and Alex runs through the police line makes it all the way and sees David. I really loved. I thought this was a very like it happens very quickly, but I also think it's a very touching scene. Again,
Yeah.
I loved. I like Rick Baker's monster here because
Yeah.
it truly looks scary and scared at the same
Yeah.
time.
It's when she says, it's like, I can't remember, she says, it's me. She says her name or something, and you can see the like the furrowed brow of the werewolf unflex as like
Uh-huh.
it's a moment of comprehension. Even as a werewolf, he still recognizes Alex.
Yeah, she says they're going to kill you. Please let me help you. And then she pauses and says, I love you, David. And that's when his
That's
eyes
it.
go a little bit limp. And then they seize back up and he lunges at her because
Yeah.
he is, after all,
A
a
werewolf.
werewolf. And the sharpshooters take him out. Then we see naked David Naughton filled with bullet holes dead on the ground. Credits.
The
Blue
end.
Moon.
The end.
It was a really amazing ending. I don't know if I like how quickly it happened, but I also like how quickly it happened.
It's the thing. I think the finale, the climax, is actually the car crashes. Like that's the kind of action scene finale.
Hmm.
And then this is the denouement. This is the emotional, like we need to see Alex, who's had this love affair with this guy who she describes as kind of sad and kind of sexy. We need her to understand he wasn't lying. He actually is a werewolf, but there's no way out.
And
Doomed
we
love affair. It's the Casablanca ending, you know?
and we knew the moment he said, I think werewolf can only
Yep.
be killed by someone who loves him.
Yep.
We knew
Love
this
is,
ending was happening and they
yeah.
did not belabor it.
No,
When you telegraph the ending, just let the ending be,
let it happen. Like
let it
she
be a
runs
button.
through the crowd. It's pretty, no, not like, no, it just kind of logically leads from one to another, which is why, I don't know, it is kind of, the ending is feels a bit abrupt, but it makes
Hmm.
sense.
And it is really just like the car crashes are the main course of the finale action
Yes.
sequence. That eyebrow gesture by the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
monster is that is the tent pole of this
Yeah. Yeah.
emotional
Yeah.
final button. The end, shall we rate this movie?
Yes, let's.
Let's start with approachability. If you're horror squeamish, how approachable is this? I'll give you a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not at all approachable and 10 being very approachable for the horror averse. I mean, I'm going to throw this right down the middle at like 5 out of 10 sad bottles of Guinness because I think this is a movie that pendulums back and forth between horror and comedy. It is so lighthearted. It is an 80s romantic comedy romp with some dark humor, but it is like I do think it hits heavy when it wants to hit heavy.
Yeah.
It's really grotesque. I think that werewolf transformation is still that is nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
And there's some good jump scares like in his dream sequences. I
Yeah.
think the home shootings thing is upsetting. Um, this isn't the horror is horror.
Yeah.
When it's wanting to be horror, it is horror. We've seen some horror comedies that are the horror is always servicing the comedy. And in this one, no, he definitely goes
He,
into
he gives it to you.
blood, scare, and tragedy, I think are all
Yeah.
really big components of horror. So let's just throw it right down the middle. 5 out of 10 bottles of Guinness, content warnings for child death, mass shooting, blood and gore, jump scares, suicidal ideation, trans and homophobic slurs. There you go.
Yeah.
But skipping approachability, Cecil, how do you rate this just as a horror movie overall?
I mean, this is top notch. This is
Hmm.
top tier shit right here.
Yeah.
Like, I would say, like maybe knock it down a peg, just one peg, because it's not as scary. Like, listen, like the scariest jump scares are the dream sequences.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's much more, oh my God, I can't believe what I'm watching.
Hmm.
So that kind of scary is kind of relegated there. But really, this literally set the bar
Yeah.
for what horror can do. And like you said, it's Ferris Bueller's Werewolf Day Off. Like it goes equally into the comedy as it does into the horror, and but doesn't diminish either. which
Yeah,
I
he
think is
jumps on top
important.
of a parade float and sings Blue Moon.
Pretty much,
Yep.
except just in London.
Yes.
So for that reason, I would give it 9 out of 10 pentagles that just haven't been painted
Pentagles.
over in 200 years.
Let's figure out what movie we're going to watch next. You've got a scare die. I've got a style die. We will roll those up and see what movie matches those two things. Cecil, on your scare die, if you roll a one, our next movie's scare is technology. Two, a wild card. Three, conspiracy. Four, alien. Five, magic with a K. Or six, psycho killer. What is our scare?
That's a 4.
Alien. Oh, that's been on there for
Ooh,
15 weeks. We've had that
we've
alien
had
on
a
that
lot of
list.
long runners.
Psycho Killer is current our current top. No, I'm sorry. I'll get to our
Wild
current.
card.
Wild card's
Or,
just been on there 5 weeks.
okay,
I mean, we always keep a wild card either
but
on
it
one
got
side or
flopped
the other.
over
But yeah,
from the other side.
I'll tell you what our longest running one here is in a second because it's on the style die.
Oh,
So I'm gonna roll the style die. If I roll a one, our Alien horror movie has to be in black and white. Two, it has to have a one-word title, which has been on this list for 19 weeks.
oh shit.
Three, if I roll a three, it's got to be a sequel, prequel, or remake. Four, it's got to be in New York, New York. Five, it's got to be a period piece. Or six, a splatter film. What kind of alien movie are we going to get, Cecil? Six, splatter.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Well, I think we can find a good alien splatter movie. Um, we have ones that we jotted down, but we also post these possible die roll matchups on our letterboxd. We're at Random Horror 9 there. You can go read all of our lists and even comment with some movie suggestions for each of these possible matchups. So let's talk about the movies we put down on Alien meets Splatter. I mean, the first one that came to mind is Bad Taste, Peter
Oh, for
Jackson,
sure. Yeah.
Splatter Master. I've never seen Bad Taste. I have seen Dead Alive, so I have a sense of early Peter Jackson
I've
movies.
only seen half this movie.
Oh, was it
Imagine
hard?
it is brain dead, dead alive.
Mm.
Yes. Yes, absolutely that.
I put on here Aliens.
Sure.
I don't know if splatter's the right. I mean, there is a lot of like alien blood splatter,
Explosion. It's
explosion,
more, it's an action alien.
and it is splattery. But I think maybe the spirit of splatter is much more like human blood and human
Sure.
ooze. But
But when
put it on
aliens
there.
gets going, it does
It's
get there.
pretty splattery. Anytime you have a chest burster, instant. I
Yeah.
mean, we could put
See, there you
Alien
go.
on here,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
original, because of the chest burst. Two on here I don't know about. I think you wrote these down. Extro.
So this is a movie that I've never seen, but it's come up a couple of times.
Mhm.
Very 80s, 1982. An alien creature impregnates a woman who gives birth to a man who is abducted by aliens 3 years ago.
Hmm.
So the monster looks very similar to this movie, very creature feature kind of
Hmm.
alien. I think it will deliver in the splatter direction, even though I've not seen it. And the other one I put on here is Life Force, which is I think it's Toby Hooper directed that one.
Hmm.
Um, it is a amazingly bizarre film about alien vampires.
This poster image, it is Toby Hooper. What the living fuck? It is
I
naked
love
women
this movie. Yes.
strapped to
Yes.
bullet-shaped spaceships.
Yes. Absolutely yes. I love this movie. It's
This looks so bonkers.
it is just as much a alien movie as it is a vampire movie, and it's very sexy in both respects. It
Uh-huh.
does have some splatter to it. Here's the thing, like splatter and aliens, it's a little bit of a tough category, but I figured this one would definitely be
Yeah.
appropriate.
A couple more things on our list here. One, Extro is not currently available for
Oh,
streaming, which is a
nuts.
bummer because when I pulled up the stills from that looks amazing. Okay, I also added, I forgot to write it down here, but Slither is
Oh yeah.
another
Oh,
one
that's
that's
definitely
splattery.
ooh, that's a good choice because that movie leans really hard into the icky gross out. But
Yes.
have you ever seen it?
I never have seen it. It is interesting because it's a 21st century
Yeah.
horror comedy. James Gunn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it goes hard into the bodies are gross.
Okay, great. And also this is like the Thing, which we've already covered for the show. I
Yes.
felt like
As
is
an
like
example.
as an example, it's like the most the most splatter alien
Yeah,
movie.
pretty much.
All right, let's talk about what people on Letterboxd had to say.
Monstrum, second slither. A Damon Fudge, second extra. Sorry, Damon Fudge. And recommends Psycho Gorman.
Oh, of course.
Um, I don't know this one. After unearthing a gem that controls an evil monster looking to destroy the universe, a young girl and her brother use it to make him do their bidding. A lot of fun, dark humor, and practical effects. Psycho Gorman. Never heard of this. Evil Aliens, a TV crew desperate to boost ratings, arrive on a remote Welsh farming island to investigate an intriguing incident, and a local girl and her boyfriend have been abducted by aliens who also impregnate her.
Great.
And Galaxy of Terror, a ragtag spaceship crew sent on a rescue mission encounter a formidable enemy, their worst fears projected by their own imaginations. A Roger Corman joint with art direction by James Cameron. Interesting.
Okay.
Let's see. Mars Kelly recommends Alien Romulus.
Have not seen this. This is the
I
newest
I saw
Alien.
this. Yeah, I saw this in the theaters. It is quite splattery.
Okay.
It's high budget. They did a lot of practical effects with this one, and it kind of shows. King and Commoner recommends a movie called Meatball Machine from
That sounds
2005.
splattery.
Yikes. Alien parasites infect humans and turn them into half machine necroborgs in a contest to create the ultimate killing machine. So, kind of like RoboCop meets aliens? RoboCop meets critters, is what I'm hearing.
Great.
Weaponized Toaster seconds Bad Taste and Slither and recommends The Blob from
Oh, of
1988.
course. I have not seen this. This
I've not seen this either because
no.
I put The Blob under other alien things, but I was like, is it a splatter movie, The Blob?
I think it's pretty gross body horror because it comes up a
Yeah.
lot when we talk about those types of movies.
All right. Cronenberg T8 seconds Bad Taste. Ganymede's Cup recommends Life from 2017, an American sci-fi horror film. A team of scientists aboard the International Space Station discover a rapidly
Uh-huh.
evolving life form that has caused extinction on Mars and now threatens all life on Earth. Uh-oh.
Yeah, Ganymede's Cut points out that it is splattery from severe violence and gore. So
Oh,
this movie
fun.
comes up a lot. Big cast too.
Yeah. JB Wolf recommends The Thing. 2011, which is the prequel to the John Carpenter classic.
Uh-huh.
I didn't even know that they made a prequel.
In fact, sorry to bring the what went wrong podcast up, but I was learning a lot about The Thing when I was listening to it, and they
Yeah.
talked about this remake happening in 2011, which I didn't know about either. But they said it was kind of sad because they really tried hard to make it a practical effects redux, to make this
Mm-hmm.
prequel, and the producers went in and kind of just overhauled it with CGI.
Oh, okay.
So they were like, it's
Okay.
fine, it's a good movie. It kind of didn't become the thing they originally
The
wanted
director,
it to be. Yeah.
yeah, that sucks. JB Wolf also recommends Brightburn,
Sure.
which is the kind of like what if Superman but evil.
I think so. Yep.
I haven't seen that one, but sounds kind of interesting. Fifth Hammer, Slither or the Blob, and The Goop Will Flow. Love that.
Okay.
Bugava Hugabuda
Yes.
recommends Color Out of Space from 2019.
Okay, I thought about
I
this
think
one.
of
I
the
didn't know how splattery this movie was.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure I've not seen it, but it seems like psychological, and then it probably gets pretty splattery towards the end, is my
Hmm.
guess. Farce Major recommends From Beyond. A pair of scientists create a machine that stimulates the pineal gland, allowing them to perceive and interact with extra-dimensional entities.
This is
Really
one where
gloppy
it's like,
gloopy.
is it alien or is it extra dimensional?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Another like, you when you get into that H.P. Lovecraft territory, you're like
True.
alien dimension, extra dimension, same.
Totally.
Vaulted Spider, Seconds Color Out of Space, and Evangelion 1.11, You Are Not Alone, a remake of the 1995 series of the same name, where a young boy is forced into a giant horror robot to fight eldritch angel aliens that explode into literal oceans of blood when they die.
I
That
do.
does sound pretty.
If we don't get to it on this show, I do kind of. That's a good sell for that
I
show
mean,
for that
I
movie.
that sounds pretty splattery.
Uh-huh.
Ace Diamond recommends Alien Stage from 2024, a Korean web series in which aliens have taken over the world and forced their human captives to entertain them in high stakes singing
What?
competitions.
Oh, this is a web series. Okay.
The main draw for these aliens is less the winners singing and more getting to watch the remains of the losers splattering the arena.
What the shit? I'm sorry, I'm gonna look this up. Wow.
Anime.
Okay. All right. Amazing. That sounds so fun.
Drowning Creek recommends Dreamcatcher from 2003. God,
Still
I
haven't
remember
seen
seeing
this.
this movie. Four boyhood pals perform a heroic act and are changed by the powers they gain in return. Years later, on a hunting trip to the main woods, they're overtaken by a vicious blizzard that harbors an omnipotent presence. Challenged to stop an alien force, the friends must prevent the slaughter of innocent civilians by a military vigilante and then overcome a threat to the bond that unites the four of them. This is a
Great.
Dean Koontz
No, this is
joint, was
Stephen
it?
King.
It was a Stephen King. Okay.
Yeah.
Orange Pazuzu seconds the bad taste. M. DeCoste recommends Dreamcatcher.
Which we just
Dreamcatcher.
did. Yeah.
E. Bodicker. Ebo Dicker.
I'm
Alien
gonna say
Romulus.
Boddicker. I think
E.
Boddicker is
Bod. I like Bo Dicker.
Ebo Dicker. Yep.
Ebo Dicker. Robert Baroness. Event
Wait, we
Horizon.
should say E. Boddicker seconds Alien Romulus.
Oh yes, I thought I did. Yes, E. Bodicker seconds Alien Romulus. Robber Baroness recommends Event Horizon, which to me, that is the ultimate alien splatter movie.
Actually, that is, and we have covered that on the show. So go
And
back
we've
to. It
covered
was on a
that.
regular episode. I don't
It
think
was
that
a
was
regular old
Patreon.
episode.
Yeah.
But that is the ultimate alien splatter movie in my mind. Boo, boo, boo. Atheros, the guy who didn't like musicals, a mild-mannered office worker with a distaste for musical theater, and his friends are faced with an invasion of pod people-esque aliens bent on turning the entire world into one big musical.
Pretty
Okay.
gory. It says.
Gory for
Atheros
a
says,
stage play
yeah.
featuring multiple disembowelings as well as fake blood and alien goop. Interesting.
Will you re? Will you just because I'm gonna just the way I've been editing? Will you pick back up from Pretty Gory for a stage play?
Pretty gory for a stage play featuring multiple disembowelings as well as fake blood and alien goo.
Sounds wild. I've never heard of this show or
Yeah.
this movie.
It's giving me very Anna and the Apocalypse
Yeah,
vibes.
yeah, totally, totally.
Madame Biscuit recommends The Mist from 2007. A violent storm, a dense cloud of mist envelops a small Maine town, trapping artist and his 5-year-old son in a local grocery store with other people, and they soon discover that the mist conceals deadly horrors that threaten their lives, and worse, their sanity.
Again, these are kind of like this goes back to the Lovecraftian thing, right? Like they're
Yes. Are
interdimensional.
they alien? Are they
Yeah,
interdimensional? Yeah.
yeah.
And finally, Night Captive recommends The Faculty, 1998
This is Robert
classic.
Rodriguez, right?
Yes.
Mm.
Controlled by otherworldly parasites, the faculty try to infect students one by one. Basically, if the Breakfast Club and Invasion of the Body Snatchers had a baby.
That's a good
Absolutely.
description. Yeah. Well, what stands
Okay.
out to you, Cecil? I
I
have
mean, I
two that I think
yeah.
are probably top of my list. What about you? What do you think?
Okay. Um, I think there's three
Hmm.
with a possible fourth. Like I love Life Force. I think Life Force is an amazing movie. The splatterness of it all, I think we're not going to get the splatter from it.
Yeah. Okay.
It definitely is a wet and wild movie, but it's not, quote, splatter. I think honestly, it's Bad Taste,
Hmm.
Slither, and Alien Romulus.
The two I had, and actually I'd forgotten about Bad Taste. Bad Taste. So I have three: Bad Taste, Slither, and The Blob.
The Blob.
Again, haven't seen the '88 version. I think it's going to be gooey.
Goopy. Listen, that counts as splatter.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm sort of interested in. Okay, so let's say this. I think Bad Taste and Slither are two examples of horror comedy coming off of An
Absolutely.
American Werewolf.
Yeah.
Alien Romulus is going to be straight up. I think that
Oh,
looks like a
there
very
is
serious
nothing
film.
funny about that movie at all.
Okay. And I don't know the tone of the Blob.
I don't know. I've never seen it,
I've
Jeffrey.
seen the original, like the old like 50s version or
I've never
whatever,
even seen the original one.
which I found sort of scary in like a creature
I
featurey
imagine,
way.
yeah, I imagine it's going to be a lot of black and white people screaming, going, "Ah,"
Ah!
and the cut to a shot of, a big pile of goo.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I have heard that the 80s version of the Blob is a little more intense.
I have too.
I don't know.
Um,
I mean, honestly, I think Slither is a really great example of splatter and alien.
mhm.
However, we just watch a horror comedy,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I feel like The Blob is one that neither of us have seen,
Mhm.
and Alien Romulus is kind of a chance to check in on the Alien franchise, see how it's doing,
Yeah, see, I just do a little quick pulse check
just
on
to
that.
just make sure they're hanging out, they're doing all right, and it's definitely pretty splattery,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
it's the least funny thing on this list.
I mean, I'm pretty excited about I would be excited about seeing a contemporary alien movie, especially a
Yeah,
2024 film. I like
yeah,
getting I don't get see a lot more old horror movies than I do new horror
yeah,
movies
yeah,
for
yeah.
the show. So that's exciting. But let me I think I'm gonna leave this to you. Do you want to watch a movie you've already seen, one that you saw recently,
I
or
know,
do you want to watch just a brand new movie and like you have
Jeffrey.
door number one where you already know the
Yeah, I
prize.
know.
This new, you have a whole new bedroom set behind door
Yeah,
number one, or do you want to trade
the
it all
mystery box.
for door number two? Is it going to be a brand new car, or is it going to be a zonk to
I
bring
don't
back?
know.
Let's make
I
a
mean,
deal.
honestly, I kind of want to watch The Blob.
I kind of do too.
Just because I've never seen it and it's just a blind spot in my horror moviness and it'll be kind of fun to watch him. Like Slither is great. Alien Romulus is certainly goopy, but there is something about getting to watch new unexplored territory for this show and then
Yeah,
being able to talk it out with you, especially when both of us haven't seen it.
agreed. Yeah, let's do the blob then.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Weaponized Toaster. Another great suggestion. And thank you all for listening. Thank you, Cecil, for talking with me. If you have thoughts on an American werewolf in London or ideas for movies that would have been great alien meets splatter film, let us know at Random Horror 9 on Instagram or on, we have a Blue Sky account. So check us out on Blue Sky, follow us there, or follow us on Patreon. We have free level memberships or $5 level memberships, and you can have discussion threads for each and every episode there at free levels. And watch the Blob from 1988 with us this week and come on back next Tuesday for a new episode. Have a restful night with no naked dude stealing your balloons or nothing. Boo.
Boo.